Hey, what's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Good to see everybody. We'll wait a few seconds for some people to get in, but it's nice that we already have some people here. This channel's in its infancy, so seeing the growth lately. Just this week, between the last stream, we hit 1,000 subs, so round of applause for everybody that's been hanging out. I see somebody's already asking if it's Sunday. No, I am sadly sorry. It is not Sunday yet. But last week we did one of these hangout streams, and everyone had a lot of fun. What did we talk about last week? Oh, the Lori Vallow story. We talked about the woman and her two missing kids from Idaho, and she had went to Hawaii, and she was into prophesizing and the Latter-day Saints, and it was a big weird story, and we had a lot of fun with it. So I figured this might be a staple of the channel. Obviously, the Spooky Sundays is what this channel is here for. But every once in a while, we can do a hangout stream where I just shoot the shit with you guys and then pull up a few kind of weirder stories that I could find in the media or just shit that I want to talk about. Like I said, last week was kind of in the headline story that just happened to drift over into the spooky and weird. So it was a fun one to share with you guys. Yes, but it's Friday. What is this? You're not allowed to stream on this channel. So we're calling it the Spooky Show podcast. This is number 2. If you guys saw the title, it's called the Grindr Cannibal. Now, what are we talking about here? Well, we'll get to that story. It's pretty self-explanatory. We had a person on Grindr get cannibalized. Ooh, Freaky Friday. That's pretty good. But there is no certain day for this show, so it's just going to be Spooky Show Hangout, Spooky Show Podcast. I haven't came up with it yet. I'm kind of brainstorming. I'm kind of trying to figure it out. But everyone seems to like the kind of hangout streams where we can just, chill out. Last week we were talking about the Wilder and Fury fight. We talked about that for like 30 minutes. Everyone was just hanging out, having a good time. This week, what I'm going to get into, and I'll talk a little bit more about it as we go, but one of the main stories is going to be the Grindr Cannibal. I'm actually going to pull up some stuff from, I guess it's kind of my childhood, but some stuff to do with some weather around here. I actually grew up in Florida, and when I moved up here, the first week I moved up here was the worst ice storm they ever had in New York or in Rochester, New York. So I'm going to share a little bit of that with you, kind of look at some old footage from 1991. Like I said, we have the Grindr Cannibal. We have an update on the missing Idaho kids and all the weird shit around that. And then we'll see what kind of time we have. I got a lot of topics for shows to come. A kid that I grew up with actually murdered somebody. So that's a fun little story. Local. I had some Through the Looking Glass stuff. We're going to hold off on that. And then the weird drones that have been found in Colorado is another topic that people are asking me to touch on. So basically what we'll be getting to on this channel is topics that I don't really think are for the main channel. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind talking about some of them, but the spooky, creepy, mystery ones that kind of fit this channel will fit into a hangout. They're not really Spooky Sunday whole shows, deep dives. They're not really for a main channel show where we're talking about deep dives into government, cover-ups and corruption and shit. So they don't really have anywhere to fit without being weird. So I figured, why not make a podcast where we do a couple of those topics every week if I have the time. This is kind of just an extra show. I'm just trying to make content, put together good content for everybody. And I know everybody likes it here because it's not a chat with 1,000 people yet. It's not, it's not overloaded. We're just kind of growing here. It's all the regulars that find their way over here. So I'm very appreciative of it. Oh, someone you knew as a kid grew up to be an axe murderer? Yeah, the person I know, and when I mean grow up with him, I went to high school with him. I knew him. I hung out with him during high school a little bit after. He was a little bit older than us, but he was always like a kind of protective guy. He was a cool guy. I actually was more friends with his brother, who's still a great guy. And he murdered some old woman in her home stabbed her to death. And there's some stuff in the media, and then there's some rumors that I've been hearing behind the scenes. So we'll get to that one of these days. I'm kind of waiting to hear from a couple friends on that because, like I said, there's an official story, and then there's what really happened. And I don't want to sell you guys short, so trying to get some local gossip before I come back with that one. Someone said 40 watching in the first 6 minutes. Yeah, I think last week we had about 100, 150, somewhere between 100 and 150 here for the first hangout. Spooky Sundays had about 1,000 views overall, and the channel has about 1,000 subs. So if we're getting 1,000 views with 1,000 subs, that's excellent. I can't ask for anything more, and it's going to continue to grow. I see a lot of regulars here, but we also brought some new people. People are getting recommended this shit. This channel doesn't have any other content except for the Spooky Sunday stuff, so I'm not suppressed yet. I can't get monetization. I don't know if I'm gonna, but I'm a far ways away with the video view hours. So when that comes, I'll make that decision. I'll probably talk to you guys about it, see if that's something we should do or not. But we're not suppressed yet, so people can actually find the channel. Which is weird for me when you see new faces. It's like, you're actually able to catch one of my videos. That's cool. They don't usually let that happen. All right, so the first thing that got me, and this isn't a spooky topic, this is just something that I wanted to bring up. Okay. So I'm in upstate New York, and I was watching, or this clip was recommended to me, obviously, because of Rochester, and it just came up into my feed. And let me actually minimize this so you can see the title of this video. Rare, this is a rare one, meteorological phenomenon called snow fire hose pumps 3 to 4 feet of snow in upstate New York. And no, I'm not a weatherman. There's a reason I'm bringing you this story. Has anyone ever heard of a snow fire hose effect? Anybody out there? I looked this up on Google. I looked it up on like weather boards and I've asked a bunch of people. I don't know anybody that's ever heard of fire hose effect weather. It's like when they come up with, there's actually 10 forms of new clouds. If you guys haven't heard of these new clouds now, it's like ever since they started spraying, it's more and more clouds. Yeah, the snow fire hose. So basically, we just got a shitload of snow. Not where I am, but in the proximity around here. I've heard of fire hoses. I've heard of lake effect snow, but this fire hose effect I've never heard of.
In the area this weekend, don't do it. An intense lake effect blizzard has paralyzed a lot of the region, and Don Daler reports from there tonight.
If you were behind the wheel in parts of
and I'll tell you another thing. I'll let this play for a second so you can hear him.
Northeast today, it was white knuckle time because the blowing snow meant everything else you could see was white too. The sky, the road. That ditch you didn't notice until it was too late.
This blizzard is expected to end later today, but the lake effect snow could continue through the weekend. The National Weather Service warns that travel in this area will remain dangerous, if not impossible.
The culprit was a rare meteorological phenomenon called a snow fire hose that pumped 3 to 4 feet of lake effect powder along a narrow swath.
A lot of people here refer to it as the North Country, but really it's the Antarctica of New York State.
Never heard that. Never heard it called the Antarctica of New York State, ever.
Forecasters say the heavier snow will taper off this evening. Overnight, gusty winds will drop temperatures into the single digits. Everything else you could see was white. Feast today, it was white knuckle time because
I'll just tell you one thing. I do not enjoy a wacky weatherman when you have serious weather that's annoying weather. When it's fucking icy, when the roads are shit and it's taking you a long time to get to work, or people are slipping all over, driving like shit. I don't need a wacky report. I just need you to give me the facts. I don't need new terms that you're making up. I don't need a fire hose effect. This was just a very weird thing. I got no snow where I am right now. Nothing came down today, but just 30 minutes away from me, they got the fire hose effect, and they got riddled with 3 to 4 feet of snow within like a few hours. Never heard of that happening. Overnight, multiple hours, multiple feet of snow. If anyone's ever been to Oswego or any places in upstate New York, they get fucking nailed. But I saw that clip, and then it kind of just reminded me of, this is why it's a hangout. I'll just tell some stories. But when I was real little, probably like 6, 7 years old, something like that, I grew up in Florida. I don't know if anyone here is from Florida, but I grew up in Tampa and outside of St. Petersburg and places like that. So I was, skateboarding and body surfing and learning all this shit as a child, swimming all the time, out on the bikes, always hanging out. Now, when you're little, you don't think about, like, because my parents got divorced when I was like 6 or 7 years old, because I was probably a terrible kid or something. Or at least they blamed it on me. I don't know why. But so when I was real little, they got divorced. And when you're little, you don't think of like how far your house is from Disney World compared to how far your house in Florida is from like Rochester, New York. You don't think about the distances or the future. You don't really think about these things. So when I was little, my mom lived in Florida. When they got divorced, my dad was moving up to where he was from, which was in upstate New York. So they gave me the choice of, oh, well, do you want to go live with your dad or stay with your mom? I didn't think of locations, Disney World, Universal, how much better it would be to live in Florida as a young person. I was like, oh, I'll go live with my dad, right? So this is like my childhood, right? Like, we're going to Universal Studios. This is 1991, Universal Studios. Old school. This is before all the high-tech rides, but it was still real fun,
Are you okay?
Early
Okay, well, we've got some
early
complimentary
on.
Tylenol for you in the back. Come over here, and I like your shorts, bud. What I can
The characters coming out, and you had everything down there. You had Epcot, you had Busch Gardens. I don't know if you guys know about Busch Gardens, but it's basically like a zoo / amusement park. Universal, Disney World, you had everything down there. So I would go to these places all the time. When you live down there, you usually get season passes, and you go to all these places all the time. I think I had some more early 90s Florida clips. This has nothing to do with Spooky Sunday, but nice houses, beach all the time. So this was pretty much my childhood. There's fun in the sun, always hanging out. So I move up to Rochester, New York at like age 6. I come up in like January of 91. I had to be 6, 7 years old, something like that. The first week I come up to Rochester, they have what's known as the ice storm of 91. That I think they called it that then, but it was just the ice storm. This was the worst ice storm Rochester ever had. I had no idea what I was getting into. I had never seen snow before. No clue. But Davey, snow is beautiful. Yeah, not when you're 7 and you're like thinking about, oh, am I going to go see the parade at Disney World for the 100th time so I can recite the Mickey Mouse Donald Duck song again? I haven't filled up my book with all the autographs of the characters yet this summer. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I was ready for. So I went from, going to these places and watching little plays and playing little games. Nice innocent kid here, just trying to shoot some hoops, meet the Flintstones, Woody Woodpeckers hanging out. I went from that to seeing this when I get off the plane. Like a week later, this happened. Trees down. I'll turn it down a little bit so I can talk over it. It was everything was iced over, complete ice. Some people are like, well, this isn't spooky at all. I know, it's just a story I wanted to tell because I saw that weather thing. Everything, I mean, so many houses were damaged. This was one of the worst. All the trees are down because the ice weighed everything down. I remember going to my father's house the first time I was moving in, and the tree in the backyard was completely cut in half. All the branches down, power's out. I'm like, I knew then I made the worst mistake, worst choice ever. It didn't dawn on me till years later that I could have been just getting a tan, hanging out, coming into age, meeting some, bikini chicks, polka dot bikini, Katy Perry. But yeah, this is crazy. I haven't really looked through this footage. This is just one drive. You can look up Ice Storm 91 and like a bunch of footage comes up. But you can just, it almost looks like a Christmas scene where they put icicles onto the trees. But this is how everything looked for about a week straight. Yeah, basically white wintry death from fun in the sun to ice death. Yes, J-Pat, that's exactly what it is. But that's just a fun little story to start off the show. Nothing too crazy. We'll get into the creepy stuff. I just wanted to hang out for a minute with you guys. This is what we did last week. We kind of just hung out and shot the shit for a minute. And it's going to become I would say a weekly thing at this point, but basically whenever I can put one of these streams together, when I got enough stories that I think it's worthy of doing an hour or so, and we'll start off at like an hour and a half and kind of build out from there and see how the show goes. Tinkering with the format right now. These first couple are just going to be getting to know everybody and letting them, I know you guys know me, but new people here, kind of like let them get to know my personality a little bit, let them tell some old stories. A couple days ago on the second channel, I did, I think Ruth is in the chat right now. She asked a question in the comments and I made a video kind of addressing why I got started making videos. So I want to do more shit like that because we lost so many videos from the main channel that got deleted or terminated. I had so many videos of like my past and why I got into this and how I've met people along the way and why I'm interested in the topics I'm interested in. So I want to start doing more of those. Andy69 in the chat. Coincidence? Oh, well, I think that's the perfect cue to start the Grindr story, right? Alan says we have firestorms over here. Well, we have fire hose storms for some reason. Never heard of it. Like I said, it's with the chemtrail stuff, how they said we have 9 new forms of clouds. Have you guys seen that before? Do you know what I'm talking? Do you know what I'm referencing? I'm sure some people have seen that video before. You've had to have seen that. I'll try to find it real quick.
Years ago tonight, the ice storm of the century was just beginning. 12 counties, including Monroe, were pummeled with ice, and all were declared a federal disaster area. Kayla Green takes a look back at the
federal disaster area. That's how serious that shit was. I'm guessing new clouds will do it. Let me see if you guys know what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, the new clouds is complete bullshit, but they actually did this. Yeah, this is it.
I've got some exciting news.
This is right after Harvard's solar shield was announced. This is like way past when everybody knew like, oh, they're just spraying shit in the sky. Like, this is old hat. We all know this. Like, this isn't I don't have to tell you guys about chemtrailing or geoengineering.
News to share with you. 12 new cloud types have just been added to the International Cloud Atlas, the first update to the atlas in 31 years.
Oh,
you may have some
okay.
questions. Where were these clouds hiding for the past 3 decades? There's a cloud atlas. Have I seen any of these before? Well, first of all, the International Cloud Atlas is actually a globally recognized source for meteorologists. First created in 1896, it has been a resource of cloud types and photos that...
Yeah, no one cares.
Scientists who share and discuss clouds by uploading photos to the Atlas's site. So, about the new clouds. Well, they involve clouds on all height levels and classifications, including rainbow clouds, roll clouds, and wall clouds, as us meteorologists have been unofficially calling some of these. The Latin names themselves are pretty cool. And speaking of cool, my favorite new ads? Let me start you off with the beautifully named Asperatus undulatus, often seen in Canadian skies. They almost look like you're viewing waves from underneath the water surface. There's still a lot to learn about these guys. They likely form in sinking, moisture-laden air with shear winds. Next up, cavum, or hole punch clouds, as I know them, caused when ice crystals are introduced into a thin cloud
Come
layer of
on.
supercooled water droplets, usually from an aircraft during takeoff or landing. The water droplets all rush to freeze in on those ice crystals, creating a vacuum in the sky. I had to add these ones for the conspiracy emails I often get. Yes, these are contrails or...
Come on.
Homogenitus, clouds caused by human activities. In this case, when water vapor condenses and freezes around small particles that exist in aircraft exhaust. Lastly, I wanted to show you this one.
Okay. She just had to add this one out of all the new clouds. She had to, for all the conspiracy, all you wackos that are emailing me. No one's emailing you. No one's emailing you. You're not putting this up because, you know, these are some new form of clouds. That's not a natural formation. But it's just so hilarious that they actually made this piece of propaganda for everybody just to insert this to call you a conspiracy theorist. Not going to go down the deep end on chemtrails right now, but just this is hilarious. So that's why I say when you get a news report, and I wouldn't even notice it if it was some other area or, you know, somewhere where you guys live. This was in upstate New York where they put out the fire hose snow report. And I'm like, never heard that term. It's never been brought up on any newscast I've ever seen, any meteorologist report. No one's ever used the term fire hose. She was much better in Scrubs, yeah. Well, they all hit the wall at some point. All right, so I got to pull up the links to this story. So what we're going to do... I gotta get these links ready. And this is the Grindr Cannibal. Like I said, it's pretty self-explanatory. What happened was a guy met a guy on Grindr. And uh-oh. Boy, did he get his money worth when he showed up. All right. Let me make sure my chat's open. Everything is good, and we are going to get right into a couple links here. I'm just going to pull them from my notes. As the show goes on, I'm not going to have this on the screen. This is just kind of a rough kind of template tonight. So it starts off with this man, and yes, I'm going to get out of the way. His name is Kevin Bacon. So let's get all the 7 degrees of separation. Let's get all our Hollow Man jokes out of the way. Let's, you know, anybody that wants to go footloose on me, his name's Kevin Bacon. We're just going to have to deal with it. We're going to have to be mature tonight. So this is a post from one of his friends, and this is what the guy looks like. We have to take all of this as the reality of the story if we're going to get to it. We have to believe what we're seeing and what we're hearing right now. Yes, he's a beaut. My friend, this is a post from his friend on December 26th, so this is right around Christmas. All right, perfect. And let me know if the music is at a good level for the story. If it's too loud or too low, let me know. My friend, Kevin Bacon, is missing. He was last seen leaving my house on December 24th at 5:23 p.m. to meet with a stranger from the dating app Grindr. He said he was meeting someone in Swartz Creek and that he would be back later that night, but he has not returned home. His phone has been off since approximately 6:20 p.m. It is unusual for him to turn off his phone when he's out, and it's also not like him to get back. And she tags a bunch of people. People are in the comments, psychos everywhere. So we'll get into this. So that's the beginning of the story. That's where we're at. And I can actually pull them up off screen. It's not a big deal. If nobody wants to see the notes on screen, I know it could be kind of annoying. So
Bacon was found dead in a Bennington Township home days after going missing on Christmas Eve. The man police say is responsible for his death is now behind bars, facing life in prison.
TV5's Rachel McCrary shares the new information tonight, and we must warn you, what you're about to hear is extremely graphic and may be upsetting to many.
Yeah. evil does exist, and it touched us.
Carl and Pamela Bacon's son has been laid to rest, but details into exactly how he died continue to haunt his parents. Kevin was killed last month after meeting up with a stranger online.
It's gut-wrenching to hear the details, and we're just beside ourselves. I don't think we've had the time
to process everything yet.
Yeah, to process everything. It's all been it's been so fast-paced the past few days.
Shiawassee court records released today indicate that Mark Latunsky, who is now accused of Kevin's murder, told police how he killed and mutilated Bacon's body. We want to repeat the warning that the details are gruesome. Investigators say Latunsky admitted to stabbing Kevin and hanging him from the rafters of the ceiling in his Bennington Township home, then removing certain body parts and consuming them later. While disturbing revelations hurt the family, they say this is not how they want people to remember their son.
Okay, that escalates pretty quickly. So we'll get into who this guy Mark Latunsky is. And then this story gets really fucking crazy. I'll tell you guys that right now. This is not your normal, maybe it's normal for Grindr, but this gets pretty bizarre. So he's all pampered up with his nice makeup. Don't condone his lifestyle. Not going to get into that tonight. Man on the left, Mark Latunsky. This is our suspect here. Now he's accused in the gruesome murder of a Michigan hairstylist, of course. He allegedly met on Grindr named Kevin Bacon. Authorities have now released the graphic details about the homicide, but be forewarned that they are extremely disturbing. Now, they told us in the clip that he removed some body parts. Didn't want to get specific on the news report, so we got to dig a little deeper. Now, when detectives went to Latunsky's home, to put it mildly, they found a house of horrors, complete with accusations of cannibalism. Bacon, 25, a hairstylist from Swartz Creek, went missing for several days before being found deceased December 28th at Latunsky's home in Bennington Township, Michigan. Now, Latunsky was arraigned on December 30th, but new details were released on January 6th. They actually put this in there. Bacon is not the actor with the same name, to state the obvious. And I kid you not, I actually think Kevin Bacon reached out to the family and paid for part of the funeral. I'm not making that up. If I find that piece of information, I'll make sure I share it. I swear I think he did. So, good guy. Now, friends and loved ones are remembering Bacon's empathetic and creative personality, which was as vibrant as his hair colors. I don't want to read this, but this is how they're putting it. Meanwhile, bizarre pictures of Latunsky wearing a leather kilt have turned up on social media. He went by the name Olikois Kailukas on social media and plastered his Facebook page with pictures showing him wearing a kilt. This is the murderer, not the gay guy. Those who really know me call me a straight arrow. This is the killer. I am a chemist and an experimentalist, he claimed on Facebook. He's charged with both open murder and body mutilation. His lawyers contend he's legally insane. Now, the detectives discovered the body upon walking into the home, hanging from the ceiling. By rafters hanging by his ankles. That's how they found him when they walked in. Now, the horrific details of this were contained in court documents, and they show when detectives went to his home to check on Bacon's welfare, they stumbled on the terrible scene. They actually shared some of these records on Facebook, and I'll read these to you straight from the court documents. So give me 1 second to pull this up. This is the police officers who wrote their, report down. This is what they found and what they said. Bacon hanging deceased and naked from the ceiling by his ankles. Mr. Latunsky was placed into custody, at which point I was called at my house. I responded to the scene along with other detectives and sergeants. An interview with Mr. Latunsky was conducted on the morning of December 28th. Under Miranda warnings, Latunsky admitted to the murder of Mr. Bacon. Latunsky stated that he used a knife. He stabbed him in the back one time and then slit his throat. Afterwards, Mr. Latunsky stated that he wrapped rope around the ankles of Mr. Bacon, hung him from the rafters in the ceiling. In addition, Mr. Latunsky then admitted to using the knife to cut off Mr. Bacon's testicles, which he later consumed. Let me repeat that last part. He admitted to then using the knife to cut off Mr. Bacon's testicles, which he later consumed. So they go on to say about probable cause. Latunsky murdered Mr. Bacon, count 2, dead bodies, mutilation. I'll find probable cause that he also did mutilate, remove, or carry away a portion of the dead body, so you can go ahead and sign that, basically saying, like, yeah, we have him dead to rights on this stuff. And they say, we're all set, and that's where the document ends there. Yeah, this is a pretty crazy story. Thought it was perfect for Spooky Sundays, but can't really do a deep dive on it, so I go, this is for the hangout. This is a good little hangout story. Now they placed him into custody. This is when he admitted it. Here's another picture of the murderer here. Handsome fella. Now, he claimed to be a chemist, and he was separated from his partner. This is him with supposedly his partner. Just weird-looking people. Like, this is why you don't go into random people's homes and meet people on these apps, and if they look like this, walk into their house. It's just probably a good idea to steer clear of that kind of stuff. Now, he was recently in a serious relationship. He was married in 2016 after meeting that guy on Grindr. He said that he wants people to know the truth, that I am not running, that I am in full cooperation, and I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to bring justice. That's what the ex-husband of this guy said, and that he was shocked. It's hard for me to believe that if this guy, and I'll get into the history of him doing other shit like this, not killing, but some other shit. It's hard for me to believe that if this guy is capable of doing this, that he showed no signs around the house. Here's him walking around a store. Listen to this story from someone random on Facebook. Want to know something crazy? Back in October, it was almost midnight at the local store. My mom tried sneaking a picture of his kilt, and he caught her. She asked him if she could take a picture of him because she never sees men out in public wearing a kilt when it's freezing outside. They talked for a minute and even walked out of the parking lot together. The average person walks past at least 16 murderers in their life. My mom was alone with this one. So when he was missing, the roommate of Bacon came out and said that, yeah, he said he was going to meet this guy on the dating app Grindr. So it definitely was him. He was going to meet him. They remember the guy a little bit. We don't have to get into all of that. Now, this is just another weird picture, but a neighbor described seeing Latunsky once chase a man wearing a leather kilt, and Latunsky was previously accused of kidnapping some of his children. So I went, okay, what? Like, he's been accused of doing shit like this before? Like, did he have red flags on him? Like, is this a guy they were watching? All right, we're going to have to play some of these stories now. Neighbor remembers incident outside of murder suspect's house. Hope you guys enjoy this story so far. 105 people. Welcome to anybody new. Thank you to all my loyal peeps.
Latunsky is now locked up without bond. Neighbors are sharing new details tonight about an incident outside his home last month. As TV5's Kate Nadolski reports, one neighbor wonders if he could have done more.
The murder of 25-year-old Kevin Bacon, sending a chill across mid-Michigan. The suspect in Bacon's death, 50-year-old Mark Latunsky, whom Bacon had met through a dating app. The death now casting a different light on an unusual encounter in November involving Latunsky's neighbor, Michael Parks.
I hear a pounding at my door at 4 in the afternoon, and I jump up. My dogs are barking like you probably hear, and this kid has this his face covered with a rag and a phone to his ear, and he's like, help me, he's after me, just scared to death out of his mind.
This scene played out on Park's front porch, just a few houses down from Latunski's home on Terrell Street in Bennington Township, where Bacon's body was found Saturday morning.
He's bleeding all over the place. There's blood on my door. A gentleman pulls up in my driveway in a silver SUV, and he gets out, and he's wearing the same getup this guy's wearing, which is a leather skirt and a couple of belts crossing her body, no shoes on, no shirt on. It's 40 degrees out.
Park tells TV5 that the man was...
I'm happy they got that guy to tell this story. He really conveys just how fucking crazy that is. But, like, yeah, this didn't alarm anybody. This wasn't like, hey, maybe this guy should be out of the neighborhood. Maybe he should be on, you know, I'm not for, you know, surveilling people, but what the fuck happened with that case? Like, the guy didn't press any charges. He was bleeding. What is going on?
Mark Latunski. He says Latunski was trying to, quote, calm the situation down, saying it was a misunderstanding, but says the victim's reaction told a different story.
This kid grabs my arm and clutches behind me. Keep him away from me, just scared out of his mind.
That's when Latunski left and police arrived. There's no record of charges being filed from this incident. Parks says that the victim told police that what the two were involved in was consensual. Parks also says both the first victim and Kevin Bacon have purple hair and the same body type.
Similar looking people. Maybe he had a certain type. I don't know. It's creepy to think about.
And knowing what he does now.
Guys, they just want to get married.
Looking people. Maybe he had a certain type. I don't know. It's creepy to think about.
And knowing what he...
That's fucking perfect. I want that clip saved. I don't know, man. It's fucking creepy to think about. I just said that out loud. Like, maybe he had a certain type, and then he goes, oh, fuck, what did I just say? What am I talking about? He has a type. Let me stop. It's fucking creepy. That is great, man. Yeah, clip that. Let's save that. I got that saved. We're good. I didn't even know that was in there. I've watched these quite a few times. I guess I didn't notice that before. That's amazing. Okay, so I think we got some more neighbors reacting.
Neighbors are speaking out tonight about the Morris area man police say killed a 25-year-old. Mark Latunski was charged with open murder and mutilation of a human body. This happened yesterday after police found the body of Kevin Bacon in his home over the weekend. Fox 37 Christiana Ford talked to people who lived by where all this happened.
Morris ain't that big a town. You blink, you'll miss it.
It's the kind of town you either grow up in or settle down in to stay out of the wind.
We're all just farmers and deer hunters. I moved from Atlanta and thinking I was going to get away from the crowds and you know, all this kind of stuff, but here, I guess you never know who your neighbors are.
Michael Parks found out a lot about his neighbor Michael Latunski back in November when a man running from his house showed up at his front door.
About 4 in the afternoon, a kid showed up, pounding on my door, screaming hysterically, making a lot of noise. He had a rag over his mouth where he was bleeding from his face, and he had the phone to his ear. And my dog started barking. I ran to the door, and I'm like, what's the matter? What's the matter? Because he was just screaming hysterically, help me, help me, help me.
He says the 29-year-old was wearing nothing but a leather kilt.
A gentleman pulls into my driveway and gets out of the truck, and he's wearing the same type of getup that this kid is wearing, which is a...
Okay, so he just tells the same story again. I swear to God, I saw a thing that said Kevin Bacon, the actor, helped with the GoFundMe. I might just be making that up. That could have been a dream. I could have been in a huge state when I thought that one up. I could have been just having a thought message beam into my head. I'm not sure. All right, so we'll get an update on the case a little bit here. Oh, and I have some recordings of the 911 calls of somebody that was in his house trying to get out. Oh, it doesn't end with knocking on doors. Oh, he had other incidents. We have the recordings. Now, Latunski was expected to submit an insanity plea. The man accused of killing 25-year-old Kevin Bacon was going to plead insanity. And this was early January when he was going to go into court, and his lawyer was going to put in a plea on his behalf of insanity, saying that obviously he has to be insane to cut the man's testicles off and eat them. So that's where we left that. Now, some more red flags, some more bad signs.
Sherlock County 911. I was trying to get away from some creepy guy. He had me tied up in his basement.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I'm trying to escape from some guy who had me chained up in his basement.
Wait, what?
Shiawassee 911, where's your emergency?
This is going to sound insane. I'm here in Detroit. I'm from New York. And I met this guy at the bus station who offered me a ride. And I'm not even sure where I am. But I broke out of this fucking basement and I need a ride. Okay.
So he called to say that he was chained up in the basement, he was drugged, he came from New York, the guy paid for a bus ticket to get to Detroit, and now he's drugged and chained in the basement.
Yes, I am. I'm passing a barn. It's all beautiful here. I can't believe I don't know where I am. I don't know. Like, I never ever had anything like this happen. I don't know whether he drugged me. I don't know. I woke up in the fucking basement, okay? Chained in the basement with a leather thing around my ankle, and I cut it with the butcher knife that I have in my freaking hand, excuse my French.
Okay, do you have any...
Very polite of him to say, excuse my French. I mean, he's in a pretty bad situation. He still takes the time to apologize. Pretty nice guy. Can't condone his lifestyle. If he wasn't, if he didn't make that lifestyle choice, he wouldn't be in this position now. But obviously he came across a real sicko in this guy. This might be the same guy that escaped and started banging on doors, to be honest with you. But yeah, frantic 911 call, banging on neighbors' doors, tied up. Now he's obviously committed a murder, chopping a guy's balls off, hanging him from the rafters, eating his testicles. We got a real fucking creep on our hands here. Okay, so let's learn a little bit more about Mr. Latunsky, and then I'll kind of get you guys updated on what's going on with him now. His history of mental illness, and just how he's doing in jail. We'll just get an update on how he's doing. I think that's the best way to go here. You guys enjoying the show so far? I mean, I'm sorry to say, but I can't beat the neighbor tonight. He had the best comment of the night so far. I can't even top that if I tried. After that, why didn't they charge him? Who knows? Might have push came to shove and the guy didn't press charges. They didn't have enough evidence to hold him on. He could have said, hey man, I invited this guy over. Look at the Democratic donor Ed Buck that had two black dudes die in his house that he was obviously shooting up with drugs, and how long it took to go after him. These cases are very hard to prove that the other person wasn't willing to be tied up, or, it's their lifestyle. They want to fight to be free and sexually liberated and do all this shit. Well, when you get tied up by your gay Grindr lover, well, now you see the other side of the fence. Just saying. I'm not saying the guy deserved to get his testicles, chopped off, but I'm just saying if he didn't live like that, he wouldn't be in this situation. So the guy, Mark Latunsky, was a father of 4 and worked as a chemist. Now he's accused of murder and cannibalism. So they're saying at one point he was a respected chemist, a little kooky, had his quirks, but no one assumed it would get like this. Now, some of the court records show that Mark Latunsky has a history of mental issues. They were just under the radar. Mark Latunsky is currently waiting a mental health evaluation. This was in late January. Now, they say he has a history of mental issues and not taking his medications, so that's the excuse that the lawyers are trying to give. And according to some papers, Latunsky was diagnosed with severe and chronic major depression, psychotic features, adjustment disorder, paranoid schizophrenia, borderline personality traits, both in 2010 and 2012. So again, they have all this information. They have a person being tied up at his house. They have people running around the neighborhood in kilts. yet nothing happens to him. So what's going on with our friend Mark Latunsky, this guy? Well, as of February 18th, the alleged Grindr Cannibal was found unresponsive after not eating. So could we get a moment of silence, a rest in peace for Mark Latunsky? Looks like he decided to go on a hunger strike for himself, and he ended up killing himself. Now, he was not Epstein, nothing happened to him. He just stopped eating. Now, the person that runs the jail said there's no way that he stopped eating. We were bringing food to him. He maybe had been eating less, but definitely nothing, and not enough to make him die from starvation. So in the end, he gets his, is what I was saying. So you don't have to be worried this guy isn't going to be back out on the scene. Yes, he did eat Kevin Bacon's balls, Semper. He did. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. Cannibal, who murdered his Grindr date and ate his balls, is found unresponsive in his jail cell after losing his appetite and barely eating since December arrest. Well, I'm sure it was the voices in his head, telling him, you're never going to wear that kilt again. You're never going to tie up another young man from Grindr. They're not going to allow you conjugal visits. Stop eating. Stop eating. So he was found unresponsive in his cell and was taken to a nearby hospital. Latunsky confessed before this. He was going to be charged. Now, it's unclear what caused him to pass out, but deputies were able to revive him with smelling salts. Then they took him to a hospital as a precaution. We thought it was best to have medical personnel look at him. Now, he added that as while his food intake has been down, he noted Latunsky's food intake has been down since Friday, but not to the point of what we'd call a hunger strike. Yet, he was unresponsive at the hospital, and he is now dead. So this guy right here, this beautiful, odd-looking gay murderer that eats balls, is now passed on to the other side. So may he burn in hell. I hope he has a great time down there. I'm sure they'll love him. Can do all his sick shit. So that is the story of the Grindr Cannibal. Hope you guys enjoyed that little one. I thought it was a fun little story. It was a lot more prep than I thought it would be. I was like, I'll just tell this story, but it's like 20 documents and all this shit. It's like, even when I try to have a fun little hangout with some weird, creepy stories. Yeah, let's get into some theories of what happened to him. Obviously, it's not from stopping eating for a couple of days or eating less food in jail. Someone said in the chat he probably took something or he was slipped something. I mean, at the end of the day, they don't want this guy either. Who wants this fucking guy around? He's no good. His brain's all fucked up. He's a homosexual. He's not going to bring anything to society. He's trying to get away with it and go to some vacation home so he can, plead insanity and live out his days nice and comfy. Like, nah, dude, you murdered someone and ate their testicles. We're going to have to get you out of here. So I think they did something to him just to ease the family, so they don't have to sit through the trial of him. They didn't have to, hear this crazy fucking and during his trial say some crazy shit about their son. They probably were like, yeah, let's get this guy out of here. Mr. Smith says, I just tuned in and this seems gay. Well, you're probably in the right spot then, right? Okay, let me see if there's any other stories I want to get to that won't take forever. So last week, if you guys were here, and I'm just looking through the chat to see what you guys are talking about. Yeah, it was a gay story. It was 2 gay people. 3, if you count the guy that banged on the door. Yeah, I think, Rich, I think prison guards or just police in general, whoever was on the case, somehow they were just like, I do think they wanted to get rid of him because he's a piece of shit, Okay, so last week during the show, we went over the Lori Vallow story and the 2 missing Idaho kids. If you guys aren't caught up on that, I'll try to do my best to explain it. It's a long, convoluted story, so you have to be kind of caught up on it. But there's a woman named Lori Vallow, and she was with this guy, Chad Daybell. She had 2 kids. They weren't his, and they have been missing since September. Now, she was in Idaho. She goes to Hawaii. Police are questioning her. She won't tell them the location of her children. They're still not found now. Her whole marriage is weird, that her husband was killed by her brother. This guy's wife died, and then they get together, and now their kids are missing, and they're in a, quote, doomsday cult, you know, and it's just a whole weird thing. So I got a couple videos for an update on this story. There's been a search. There's been family members coming out saying they know where the kids are. I'll try to get one that gives a kind of an overview of where we're at. Okay, so yeah, for those that haven't heard about it, I'll try to pull up just a story that kind of gives us a little timeline. Now, we did a stream on this last week, so I can't rehash the whole story because it's a long one. I'll try to pull up a quick timeline of the events of the missing children. Okay, give me 1 second here. Now, she was part of a group called Preparing a People, and they said it's like a cult. These are Latter-day Saints, Mormons. They teach prophecies such as Jesus Christ was coming back in 2020. So 2 children vanished from Idaho in September. Since then, their mom remarried, fled to Hawaii, and was just arrested.
They haven't been seen since September. Their mother hasn't been talking, but has now been arrested in Hawaii. We just got Lori Vallow's mugshot overnight. There it is. Police took her into custody yesterday on a warrant for felony desertion and non-support of dependents. Vallow's...
Oh, just K today. Thank you very much for the donation. Very appreciative. Thank you.
Been ordered by a judge to produce 7-year-old JJ Vallow and his sister, 17-year-old Tylee Ryan, by the end of January of last month. She obviously did not do so. Officials say there's no
Uh-oh. Johnny's in Hawaii. Watch out for that coronavirus, man.
indication the kids are in Hawaii either, and nobody is saying
Do you know where the kids are?
Vallow's being held on a $5 million bail. JJ's grandmother texted us, though, saying she's elated about the arrest, but she still needs to see the children.
We can't unkill my brother. We can't unkill, Tammy Daybell. We can't.
Now, the whole thing is bizarre. Like I said, her brother killed her ex-husband, who was her husband at the time. He doesn't get charged for it because he says it's self-defense. Everybody in the family just assumes, she had him knocked off. Now, she's with the new husband, Chad Daybell. His first wife ends up dead right before they get together. The kids are missing. The brother of this woman was killed in a died under mysterious circumstances. So the lawyers are coming forward of the the people bringing the case against her, saying this is a cult where people are dropping like flies. We don't know exactly what's going on here, but this isn't some, it's just not a normal kind of family or domestic thing. That something larger is happening here.
Attempted murder, Brandon. We can't undo anything except this. It is what it is right now. So please just tell us where the kids are. That's what the most important thing is, period.
I know you heard a lot of names there, and there's a lot to unpack, so I want to make sure that we have this all straight for you. Please take a look at your screen. I'm going to walk you through this. So Charles Vallow was the grandmother's brother and suspect Lori Vallow's 4th husband. He was shot to death last year by Lori Vallow's brother, Alex Cox. Now, Cox died in December of an unknown cause. Authorities are also investigating the death of Tammy Daybell. She was the first wife of Vallow's new husband, Chad Daybell. She was found dead just weeks before he married Lori.
Some Jerry Springer shit. Now, the Chad Daybell is an author. He's written 25 books about his prophecies and the visions that he gets. I'll get to some of those crazy people. If you guys need kind of the full story of up to this point, last week's hangout, the first podcast that we did on this channel, the first hangout was, half just shooting the shit and half was this story. So if you need to catch up, just go back into this channel's videos. It's like 2 videos back, and you can watch this whole story unfold. I'm going to do updates jumping from that point. Now, authorities are still trying to piece together what happened to the 2 Idaho children who have been missing for now 5 months. In that time, like they said, their mother remarried, fled to Hawaii with her husband. Once police began investigating the disappearances is when she left. And then she was arrested. She's on $5 million bond. That's where we're at. So now I got some updates. Court documents in the courtroom.
Now to new.
Decades before she was arrested in the disappearance of her 2 children, JJ and Tylee, Lori Daybell was a sweet, quiet cheerleader from a devout Mormon family. Bernadette Flores Lopez says she met Lori when they were 15 years old and trying out for the cheer squad at their Southern California high school.
My first impressions of her was, man, I just thought she was just a Barbie doll. She was a doll. She was really sweet. That's why it hurts so much right now. I'm in disbelief, really.
Bernadette has asked us to blur her face to protect her privacy. Back then, Lori was Lori Cox. She would attend religious classes before school.
That takes a lot of dedication to go in high school and go before school started to seminary. She never spoke about what it meant to be a Mormon. I just know in her house, there was a giant book of the Book of Mormon in her house.
Lori was quiet, but also
hilarious.
Okay, so they want to paint the picture. Oh, yeah, she's great. Yeah, she's awesome. We don't know what happened. She just flipped, man.
And we begin the news at 10 on this Sunday night with newly obtained court documents that shine a disturbing light on the search for those 2 missing children from Rexburg. It's been exactly 5 months since JJ Vallow's disappearance. And
Man, that's this Charlie Day It's Always Sunny conspiracy board. Just the web keeps getting bigger. Holy shit. So his wife deceased, her husband dead. Jesus.
Even longer since anyone has seen his sister Tylee Ryan. Their mother, Lori Vallow, in a Hawaii jail facing felony child desertion charges. Tonight, child custody papers revealed the ex-husband of Lori's niece saying that his wife wanted to kill him for a hefty life insurance payout. Our Gretchen Parsons has been following closely the events around this case and checks in now with more. Gretchen.
Okay. Mark, Melanie Boudreau is Lori Vallow's niece, and her ex-husband is Brandon Boudreau. Brandon was the target of a drive-by shooting.
Just talk normal. Talk like how you would talk if you were just talking.
Last October in Arizona. Through child custody documents, Brandon details how he thinks Melanie was involved and her reasons for wanting him dead. While Brandon Boudreau and Melanie Boudreau were in the process of getting a divorce last year, Brandon was the target of a drive-by shooting in Gilbert, Arizona. Police are currently looking into whether Melanie had a role in Brandon's attempted murder. Authorities later confirmed that the shooter's car was registered to Charles Vallow, Lori's dead estranged husband. In newly filed custody documents over the Boudreau's kids, Brandon says that Melanie's new husband told police that Melanie planned to kill Brandon with the help of her uncle, Alex Cox. He goes on to say that Melanie would have $1 million worth of reasons for wanting him dead, and that she was hoping to cash in on his life insurance policy that would go toward the cult she and Lori were a part of.
And that, quote, cult or doomsday group or whatever you want to call it is called Preparing a People. They have now distanced themselves from this woman. They put a statement up on their website saying that they have no part in this. They're just a fun little hangout group. They don't know why they would think like this. I've been trying to do a deeper dive into them, but they've buttoned everything up. They've deleted all podcasts that she did. They deleted all footage of her, got rid of any articles or anything on their site that had to do with her, and there's nothing archived. So I'm still trying to look for some of that stuff. Okay. So the husband, Chad Daybell, was seen leaving Hawaii.
If Chad Daybell thought he could slip away from Hawaii unnoticed, he was mistaken. Where's the kid?
Fucking Inside Edition, man. Oh, you thought you could sneak away? TMZ style reporting? Not in 2020, my friend.
Daybell thought he could slip away from Hawaii unnoticed. He was mistaken. Where's the kids, Chad?
They're so fucking smug. They are so smug when they get people or catch them or get to ask them this question, which is good. I'm glad they did, but they're just so smug about it.
He was mistaken. Where's the kids, Chad? Check out the citizen sleuths recording his every move. Regular folks with cell phones get right in his face.
You leaving Hawaii finally?
Last night, Daybell, whose wife Lori remains in jail awaiting imminent extradition to Idaho, was spotted at the airport in Hawaii, apparently on his way home.
I'm just trying to get on my flight. I'm just trying to go home. He's getting hassled. Yeah, I got with this chick. I didn't know she was going to be crazy. That, obviously he's probably part of it, but I'm just saying, like, he made a bad call there. He had a nice stable marriage. He could have made it work. It wasn't his fourth. That was his first marriage. She was on her fourth. That's the worst decision you could make, leaving a stable, a marriage. Who knows if it's stable? It's work, but he was in a marriage and he leaves it for a doomsday cult grandmother that's on her fourth marriage, and her last husband was killed by her brother. Gotta think a little bit if that's a good call, sir.
Lori Daybell is charged with 2 counts of child desertion. Her 2 kids have not been seen since September. Before her arrest, the Daybells were dogged by citizen sleuth.
They just left.
Who followed them wherever they went. So Chad Daybell, who writes books about doomsday, should get used to the attention even when he's back home.
Where's the kid?
Where's the kids, bro? Oh, so they're on him. They'll be following him around. All right. I'll get to this clip probably last. Let me make sure I have them all. Where's that one? I gotta make sure I have the most important clip. Okay, so there is a search going on for the kids right now. I'll play the niece comes out. Lori Vallow's niece shows up to court and says she knows where the kids are.
Respect the courthouse. Melanie and her new husband, Ian, walked arm in arm into a courthouse in Mesa, ready to discuss a motion of contempt her attorneys filed against her ex, Brandon Boudreaux.
You can never cover up a lie with truth. You can only cover up a lie with another lie.
Brandon filed court paperwork fighting for primary custody of their 4 kids. He explained in his filing that Melanie is involved in a cult where adults and children alike are being killed off like flies. Melanie is Lori Vallow's niece. Lori and her new husband, Chad Daybell, are believed to be doomsday preppers. And there are 3 mysterious deaths and 2 missing children surrounding that couple. Lori moved to Idaho in the summer, and soon after, Melanie moved in right next door.
First of all, we don't know that they've done anything bad. They've not been accused of doing anything of that nature of what you're suggesting. She went to live next to her aunt and people that she knew. She had reasons to want to do that.
Brandon also claimed in his court filings that Melanie knew where Lori's missing kids are. Her attorneys strongly deny that.
So the niece comes out, says she knows where the kids are. The husband says, her niece's husband says, yeah, she knows where the kids are. Now the lawyers are saying, oh, no, that's not true. She doesn't know. So they're making it a big mystery where these kids could be, and most are presuming that they're dead. I mean, that's presumed at this point. It's not that they're missing or they're with some family member or they're off with the cult. They think that there's something much deeper, some kind of sacrifice going on with this cult, that there's people being killed all over the place. Just around this one woman, we've seen, 3 people drop like flies and 2 children missing, presumed dead. Now, there was a detective searching Yellowstone.
Sources tell CBS News investigators are considering searching inside Yellowstone National Park as they look for 2 missing Idaho children. Tylee Ryan and Joshua J.J. Vallow were last seen in September. Their mother, Lori Vallow, was arrested in Hawaii and faces child abandonment and desertion charges. She's fighting extradition to Idaho. Jonathan Vigliotti reports from Kauai, where she's behind bars.
She's aware of the charges.
As Lori Vallow sits in a Kauai jail cell, sources close to the investigation tell CBS News detectives are waiting for the snow to melt in Yellowstone National Park as they continue the search for Vallow's 17-year-old daughter, Tylee Ryan. Park officials declined to comment, citing an active investigation.
Now, as far as national parks and forests goes, Yellowstone contains the most missing people. It's a little fun fact from the missing 411 readings. It's obviously one of the largest parks in the what do you call it? The parks and forest system. You know, the national parks and forests.
Has changed so much.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys were here last week. This woman was granted an interview on the local news. We watched her last week. This is the woman that gets thought messages and things, visions that beams into her head.
Friends with Chad and Chad's late wife, Tammy, who died back in October. But since all of these deaths connected to the case have come to light, she says her former friend isn't the man she thought he was. Chad and Chad's late wife. Rose says she was really good friends with Chad and Chad's late wife, Tammy, who died back in October. But since all of these deaths connected to the case have come to light, she says her former friend isn't the man she thought he was. Julie Rowe lives in Kansas, but she travels the country to do what she calls spiritual and energy readings. Like Chad, Julie says she's had near-death experiences and writes about them. That's how she met Chad several years ago.
He was my publisher for my first 4 books.
Rose says she also became close friends with Chad, his late wife Tammy, and their children.
I did energy sessions for he and some of his kids.
Rose said,
Anybody? Energy sessions? Energy sessions. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure he was helping you with the book. Oh, he's nothing like I remember. Oh yeah, he was the nicest guy. Okay, nice, normal guys don't hook up with women in their late 40s, early 50s that have been through 4 marriages and their last husband was murdered. Normal people don't do that. So all these stories of, oh, she was a cheerleader who had a big Book of Mormon, and oh, he was a great guy that helped me with our books. These are just, surface level, putting a nice coating on everything. This isn't the true stories. There's something deeper about this cult. Now, this woman has a channel called Eyes Open, and as you can see, I've been watching a few of her videos, and she had one called Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow Drama from a month ago. So I thought we'd play this. We'll get out of here pretty soon. Where we're at in the case is...
All I have right now, I'm going to turn it to you and just let the energy go.
These people are so fucking annoying. But where we're at in the case is they're waiting to search a couple Yellowstone Park and the surrounding areas, and these children are presumed dead or in serious danger at this point. This video has 15,000 views. She has 1,000 subs, 130 likes, 195 dislikes.
That are going on. One of those current events right now is the Chad Daybell story, who Julie and I both know, and we'd like to share another angle of things. In our last episode, Julie, we had a very, I guess you could say that episode was intended to balance the huge media storm that was going, where we were only getting one side of the story.
Chakras.
Our intent, I feel, was to bring another side to the story. And in doing so, we may have been slightly imbalanced ourselves, and so the purpose, I think, of this podcast is to tell a more complete story of what you see, what you feel, what you hear.
Yep, they're spirit guides, channelers, they beam thought messages.
Concerning the Chad Daybell story.
He seems just kind of like he's kind of just globbing onto it, though. She's the one that, she's the talent of the situation where, you know, he just sets it up for her, and she starts coming with all these woo-woo terms like imbalanced, and, you know, I had a thought vision, but it was a dark one. You know, I have light ones and dark ones, and I don't know when they're gonna beam into me. These messages just come in, and I see a vision, and then the pen just moves itself. I write these stories.
So that's really all I have.
It's really not hard to do. Anybody can just start bullshitting and say that they have these powers.
Now I'm going to turn it to you and just let the energy go.
Classic snake oil, classic turpentine.
Catch us up on some of the more recent details that have come out from media, and just let us know what you've heard, what you've seen, and what you understand.
What you're feeling.
Okay. Well, I haven't read everything that's out there on in media. I've had, I don't know, a dozen different things sent to
You don't need media. Why? You don't need media. Just go from within. Go from the messages.
Me, I've had a lot of media contacts want to interview me. I have done some interviews. Most of them, well, I think 2, Fox 13 and KSL did, 30 to 40 minute interviews, and you saw what they did there, some of you.
Yeah, they recorded you saying your weird shit. That's all they did. We watched part of the interview. They didn't misquote you. They didn't make you look bad. You were talking about channeling shit.
That Edition and People Magazine and some others have tried to contact me. I'm just waiting to hear more from them and to decide who I'm going to interview with at what point in time. I do see some of that as a possibility come down the line, and here's why. First of all, let me explain a little bit about the gifts, because there's a misunderstanding.
Gifts.
There, I think. I've had 6 near-death experiences and lots of out-of-bodies. I came to this planet with the ability to see, hear, feel, and understand the other side of the veil, I guess you could say. Several.
I'm not totally against someone being channeled in, and people have God speak to them. People somehow have, some people just for some reason have more intuition than others. I don't believe this broad has any gifts, any powers. I'm not under the illusion that this broad that looks like she's half cocked right now, highly medicated, that she's getting any extra thoughts. Yeah, she does look demon possessed. Someone says that's a dude. Yeah, well, we can't go with the everyone's a dude and everyone's a transgender, or the whole earth existing and reproducing thing kind of goes out the window. So we have to pull back sometimes on that one. Now, what is she? I don't know. Is she a demon reincarnate? Maybe. But I don't think she's channeling messages from the beyond the veil, as she puts it.
Spiritual gifts, that I'm not going to get into all of those right now. Everything from being able to see spirits on the other side of the veil, or hear them, whether they are of the light or the dark or anything in between.
Yeah, I've been listening, the light and the dark. I had to go through all of her videos just to see what she brings up.
That continues on.
I do it for you guys.
Only been amplified since my near-death experience. The first one I had was in 2004. Chad Daybell was my publisher for that book. In February of 2014, Chad Daybell contacted me off of a prepper site. I was typing about my dreams and visions. At that point, had just barely started to tell people that I actually had a near-death experience. Was kind of testing the waters because.
You made up a story. You made up a story about 6 near-death experiences. Most people don't have one. I don't believe she had 6. So she basically just tells the story of how she met this Chad Daybell guy, and he heard her crazy stories and figured he could make some money off of her by publishing her book. That's how they got together. Now she's out doing the media runs and also every time pumping her visions and business out. So that's where she's at. I think she's involved somehow. I think she knows more than she's saying, and not from the visions, but from actual physical interactions with these people. I don't know where the kids could be. Every place is a dead end. I think the niece that came out and straight up just said, I know where the kids are, is saying she knows where the kids' bodies are. That's my speculation. And that's why the lawyer is putting a halt to, oh, no, she's just making that up. She doesn't know where they are, because people are reporting it like, oh, she knows where the kids are and they're alive. I think she's saying, no, I know where the kids' bodies are. And the lawyer obviously doesn't want that to come out. So that is the story of Lori Vallow, the Doomsday Prepper mom. Hope you guys enjoyed it. This has been pretty fun. We got the Grindr Cannibal, and we got the Doomsday Prepper mom, and we went a little bit over an hour, so I'm pretty happy with this. Let me turn this music off. It's been on for almost the whole show. It's very quiet. All right, I'll hang on the chat for a second, guys. See if you guys got anything you want to ask or talk about, and then we'll wrap it up. I gotta get my ass to bed. Dooms dude? Yeah. She may be a witch, but I don't think it's anyone with any powers. Hey, what's up, Linda? Good to see you. Johnny's in Hawaii. Fancy. Watch out. Get your mask on. Said I had a near-death experience. I choked on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Yeah, we've all had close encounters, man. The only time I've ever had anything close is going underwater and like taking water in while I was real young, didn't know how to swim yet, and I just like freaked out. But I don't remember really seeing much. But there is a weird thing to it, and you do hear stories about people that have died and they've been under for like an hour, and they claim to have seen things. Now people chalk this up to the chemicals that get released in your brain, and it makes you see these visions like you would be on DMT or something. But there might be something to that. Oh, Tim Truth, good to see you, buddy. Glad you stopped by, man. Yeah, a little fun channel that we have, man. We just hang out and tell some kind of weird stories and hang out together. Everyone just has a good time with it. She's a wannabe witch. Yeah, that's the most likely scenario. There is money in it, though. I'm sure she sold a bunch of books under his publishing company, because he sold 25 books prophesizing. All right, I think we're going to wrap up here, guys. I appreciate you guys stopping by. If anybody wants to support what we're doing on any of the channels, from Spooky Sunday to Davey Crocko 2 or 3 to the Doc's Day channel to dLive and all the rest, I'll put the link in the chat for you guys. No obligations, just if you want to. It just goes for upgrades and, helping us get more shows out at better quality. So, I didn't even mention this. Spooky Sunday this week, we went no vote. Now, that's because I've had a bunch of shit prepped up from a show that we lost, and that was the show that we did on cryptids about 3 weeks ago. The video was blocked worldwide, and not everybody got to see it. Since then, I've added some new links and some other things to add to the show, so it's going to be on cryptids, and it's going to be called Weird Things in the Woods. So we're going to it's going to be called actually Into the Woods, and it's going to be a bunch of... I don't know if you guys know when I had Drummer on the show and he told his story of the weird experience he had. So it's going to have to do with cryptids and other weird shit in the woods. So I think it'll be a fun one. And then next week we'll get back to the voting process. And then we're going to take a week off and revamp the whole look of the show, the template, and come up with a bunch of new topics for the next, quote, season of it. So with that said, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Got to... get up pretty early for work, and most likely I'll see you guys probably just see you on Sunday for the Spooky Sunday show, and then back on the main channel probably Monday afternoon with a stream of a bunch of topics I have saved for that. So anywhere you guys see me, guessing people will come by the main channel, but most likely I'll see you guys on Sunday. So with that said, as always, I will see you in the next one.